So, should I be recording this? No, because I have like a million other things that I really could be doing. But am I gonna do it? Yeah, absolutely I am. Okay. So, I was gonna do like a conversational thing, like one of the ones that I had done before, but I wrote a couple things this week that I kind of wanted to share. I'm going to see how long it takes for me to go through the first one, and then like maybe I'll do the second one. There's three, but I haven't fully written the third one. It's super short, the third one. I have it on paper. I just haven't put it up on like my blog. And the first one is really just me trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. So it's like a lot of little pieces and then like me trying to say the same thing different ways. Like I don't know, maybe try to make it sound more poetic or something. Um, I I guess I'll read it. And as always with these, like if you have any suggestion of like what I could title it, that would be super cool. Um, I hope you're having a good week. Um, yeah. Okay, let me just read it. Sometimes the only thing I have to say is tears. There are times where communication can only begin through tears. Sometimes the gateway to a conversation is tears. Emotions are potent. Sometimes they overwhelm me. They consume me. I don't want to cry. I don't want to manipulate anyone with my tears. But sometimes that's all I have in me to do. Sometimes that's sometimes that's all. I guess I wrote that wrong. Sometimes that's all. Sometimes all that's left of me is to cry. Sorry. To break character. To not appear to have it all together. To be vulnerable. When am I weak? Is it when I cry or is it when I hold it in? Excuse me. Like my head looks super small like that. Okay. I'm gonna read it again. This time, try not to mess it up. And then I'll kind of talk about where this came from. Sometimes the only thing I have to say is tears. There are times where communication can only begin through tears. Sometimes the gateway to a conversation is tears. Emotions are potent. Sometimes they overwhelm me, they consume me. I don't want to cry. I don't want to manipulate anyone with my tears. But sometimes that's all I have in me to do. Sometimes all that's left for me is to cry, to break character, to not appear to have it all together, to be vulnerable. When am I weak? Is it when I cry or when I hold it in? I've kind of had an emotionally overwhelming week this week. And it's very interesting because a lot of things that I would have usually reacted in anger towards other people, I kind of reacted very neutrally in those situations. And then I was just overwhelmed with tears and crying a lot. And I ended up trying to have conversations with people where I would just start crying. And like, I just felt like it was kind of weird in the sense that, like, you know, I think sometimes like there's people that like will weaponize their tears so that like they can evoke an emotion from you. I'm someone who like I'm constantly trying to control my appearance the best that I can because I'm always messing up because I'm just strange, it part of it is probably my autism and like because I'm a late diagnosis, like even understanding what masking is and what it isn't is kind of like a weird topic in and of itself for me. I I didn't know I was masking. I'm still trying to even grasp terms with that. I just um haven't really like gone into that with my therapist and stuff like that. Um But I feel like a lot of things where I'm, like, keeping it together and, like, I cry when I get home or when I show my frustrations once I'm home or stuff like that. A lot of that was masking because I would become overwhelmed in situations, but it wasn't like I had a space or place to go to or, there also wasn't an expectation of me to react in any sort of way. I don't know. I was always seen as very strong, very independent, very much able to do everything or all the things. I don't know how else to say it. But it's like, there's certain people and like autistic or not, or like not even having issues. There's just like certain people you're like, yeah, they get overwhelmed. They have those feelings. Like it's very much okay. Like everyone will see as the way they react and act as okay and normal. Versus, like, certain people, it will be like, "Why are you acting that way? Like, are you trying to get attention or something?" And, it's like a natural human reaction, and, like, my mask has always been like, "I'm okay. I'm doing great. I can help you. You need help, I'll help you." And being very, like, strong and self-sufficient, like, that was pretty much my mask because I didn't mind getting help, I didn't maybe know how to ask well or whatever, and it was just easier if I could control. Like, if I could know what I'm doing, then, that gives me a little bit of control. Not that I need control, I try to be flexible. I'm more and more as I'm getting older, I'm learning how to be more flexible, but it's more just like, I don't know what can happen, like, I remember going to school, I would just be like, "Yeah, I don't know, like, every day is full of surprises, and, like, people are going to attack me or something." So, like, almost naturally, all I have left is to just, like, try to at least know, like, the content that I'm learning or, like, do well in school because at least then in that portion, I'm okay. So, like, even if I'm not really good at making friends or, like, good at socializing or I'm having issues with the adults or, the people who are, like, in charge of the school, I don't know, it is very late right now, so I'm lacking a lot of the vocabulary that I know that like, the administration, it was like, okay, so, like, who knows? Because, like, the counselor or, like, this teacher is, like, probably gonna yell at me today because I'm gonna ask a question I'm not supposed to ask, or, like, they just don't like me at this point because I've just done so many little things that they're now annoyed at me, and they have to keep seeing me because that's how, like, being a teacher works, and so I know they're gonna let out some of their anger with me. Because that's just become like our whatever. So if I could control like at least knowing the content and at least like knowing how I'm going to react when they do that, and like knowing that if I ask questions, I will get that kind of reaction. Um, it was like that was like my way of control. It wasn't like controlling, sorry, that then they would have a positive view of me. I wasn't because I didn't want to, like, control so that it was not me. I just had to, like, see how I could manage me the best within the scope that I was in. And then I was, like, also a child for a lot of that. In college, it was very different. It was, like, nobody I mean, I still face a lot of stuff, but whatever. That's another story. But when we're talking about that, right? So, I don't know where this is coming from, but I think I know where I wanted to go with that. Excuse me. I just have snot in my nose that doesn't want to come out if I blow it, so then it just makes my voice kinda weird. Anyways, I just was, like, very emotional, and I was just crying, and it was just certain I'm not someone who, like, I necessarily want to be liked by a lot of people. I feel like it's probably nice, like, if people were to like you, but I'm not in search of that because, like, I just get really tired having to, like, act more than when I'm already acting. So, like, I'm with the masking, it's, like, within my realm versus, like, I just can't have, like, a whole other personality because that just sounds like a lot of work and, like yeah, it just sounds like a lot of work and, like, that I would forget, and then, like, it just sounds more tiring than, like, what I'm already having to do. Does that make sense? So I know some people, they will, like, explicitly change or change their likes and change their this. Like, I made bad decisions, and I do not blame the people around me. Were they doing it? Yeah. Did they mind and influence me? Sure. But ultimately, like, I made that decision. I chose to be in those situations. I pushed myself further than they were even doing in the first place. They may have introduced me to things, but then I went and I just went, into a completely different realm with it. I took it and I ran, like as they say. So I believe in like taking that kind of responsibility and like that self-awareness is very important to me. So I can't like be too fake or like be fake. Masking is not the same thing as being fake, but I think that's maybe like a good way for people to understand it. Um and like, excuse me, I just feel like I ran out of like energy for me to be fake. Like I ran out. Like I don't know how to say it. I just ran out. And I don't actually think this part's gonna go in, so let me go back in. So I don't really know necessarily like where I was trying to go with this, but I do remember that so today I was in my Bible class and we're talking about Lent time, right? Because it's Lent time right now. And they're called like spiritual exercises. So it's basically just like during this time for the young people, for like the children, different age groups, catechism, Bible school. Almost all these groups, they're all doing like spiritual exercises that are revolving around this time, which is Lent and Easter and the Stations of the Cross. Like a lot of these things, like, not necessarily in that order, not necessarily that plainly, but it's these ideas of like, what are we being brought to ourselves, right? And so in my Bible class, the theme was confronting the violence that you have within yourself or like conquering the violence you have within yourself, something like that. I don't have my notebook with me, so I can't tell you perfectly. Um, I can look for it, but basically, what they were trying to say was that we all have where it's like much easier in the world uh time to time to defeat the violence that's in me. That's what it's called. So the topic that we went over today was Lent, the time to defeat the violence that is within me. That's the best way I could do it, translating wise. But, you know, I think a lot of times as people, good people, like not religious or religious, it's very easy for us to be like, oh, you're bad, I'm good. I help people, you don't help people. I go to church, you don't go to church. I think I did it wrong, but on a couple of them. But the point is, a lot of times we're gonna end up being more like comparing other people. Like we don't really want to be here looking at the bad that we can do, right? And that really doesn't have to do with the poem, but what they mentioned in that, I could always talk about that more if you'd like. Was there's this painting of like this guy and like Jesus coming to them, and it's kind of like a mask is being ripped off of his face, and behind him, like his real face is sad, and the mask they're taking out is like a happy face. And I feel like I'm just in that. And by the way, this is like before I even came to this, but I feel like I'm in that right now where I'm being ripped away this thing of like me just being like, okay, that's cool, that's great, happy, happy, happy. Yeah, you want me to do this? I'll go do it. And I'm just like, it's being stripped away, and like the true color or feeling of my heart, which is kind of sad, unfortunately, right now, and melancholic, is shining through. And I don't know why, but my only physical response is just to cry. And I feel like even when I was trying to have the conversation with somebody, I couldn't even like speak. I would just like consume with emotions that I just started crying. And it wasn't like that's not what I wanted because I wanted to have like a true conversation with this person. And I was just like, Holy Spirit, help me. Like, I don't know. Well, like, how am I supposed to say this? Like, how am I supposed to get into this conversation? I don't even know. Like, that's quite literally how I felt. And I was just led to kind of cry. And it was like, they responded to that because who can't respond to someone crying, whether it's an awkward response, a compassionate response, or, empathetic, sympathetic. But that was all I had. I wanted to talk about other things, like, to just not focus on the topic that, like, we were really supposed to be talking about. I was like, like, I don't even wanna I can't even go there right now. I don't even know how to ask. And, so I was just overwhelmed, and I was just crying, and I was, like, trying to control myself, and I was, like, trying to it was, like, this battle of me, like, with the tears, with, like while crying, I'm still trying to, like, put the mask back on and be like, "Let's talk about something else. I'm okay." And they're like, "You're literally crying." And I'm just like, "Oh, I don't know." And I feel like that's where that part comes in where I broke character because the character that you guys had seen me is, like, the happy-go-lucky, I'm not always happy, but more like, I'm like, "Yeah, let's go do this," or like, "Yeah, da da da," like, try to be funny or, like, try to do something or serious, it's kinda like one of those 2 things. That's kinda what I'm known to be like, I feel like, especially when I'm, like, in the situations that where this kinda happened, and, like, I have it all together, and, like, I'm doing well, and, like, I find it really funny because even some people are, like, still learning that I work and that, like, I've already gone to university and, like, that I paid for my own school, because I think I don't know why, but a lot of people think that, like, everything was just, like, handed to me. I'm like, "I wish it wasn't, LOL." Um, but I know that I have that appearance because, a good friend that I made recently, she let me know, she was like, "Yeah, like, when you came to, the meeting we were in, I had no idea why you were there." Because, I mean, if there was anyone that I've ever seen she didn't even know me, but she's like, "I just you seem to have it all together." And, I've heard that a lot where they're like, "Well, you just seem to have it all together." So I've always had this appearance of having it all together. I'm not doing it on purpose, by the way. I feel like I'm really full maybe I am doing a little bit on purpose, masking, but I also feel like my flaws are very obvious. Because like, I don't mind talking about my flaws or, like, how I don't know this and, like, where my problems are and, like, that self kind of realization and actualization, all that has always been a big part of, me. But to people on the outside, they're like, "Oh, like, you just think you know everything and you just have everything together." And I'm like, "When the heck did that happen when I'm the one who's always talking about, like, the parts of myself I need to work on, right?" And, but yeah, I felt like in that moment I broke the character because I didn't look like I had it all together. I didn't look like I was happy go lucky. And it was like me being vulnerable to a different state. I'm always like very open. Like I want to share my story. I want to share my life. I want to share a feeling that I'm always willing to be vulnerable. I don't mind talking about my faults. I don't mind talking about like my shortcomings. But being vulnerable where, like, now I look weak in a way or helpless, it has always been something, like, that I'm not necessarily comfortable doing in front of other people, I can admit that, and I know that God is the one who's going to help me, but that is something that, like, has always been a problem for me in a way, and then so that's why, like, it comes in at the question at the end, like, "So when am I weak?" Is it when I cry? Because I didn't actually get, like, a necessarily a positive response because they were just kinda like, "Oh, like, how do we contain this?" kind of thing. So, like, am I weak because now I was trying to, like, come to figure out, a problem, and then I broke down crying, so it's like, am I weak now? Or is it weak when I'm holding it in so that I can keep up the appearance, the character, the having it all together? the being vulnerable to a point. It's like, when am I weak? Because am I showing weakness because I'm giving in to this feeling? Do I show strength by resisting? Do I show strength by putting like hard barriers and like measuring out when I'm crying in front of people? And if I cry in front of people, like, is that strength to be able to hold it? Or is that weakness because I don't want people to see? It's like such a delicate, like, kinda conversation. It could really go both ways, but that's what's on my mind. Is it when I cry? Is it when I hold it in? And I feel like that's it's not a question for me. Like, I'm not asking, because these are all my thoughts and all that stuff, like, that's where a lot of my writing comes from. I'm not asking me, like, "When am I weak?" I'm, like, asking the other people, like, "When am I weak? Am I weak when you see me cry? Or am I weak when you know that, like, I'm feeling something and I'm not willing to open up myself to it?" Like, which one for you, you know, would you be like, she's showing her weakness? You know what I mean? Because that conversation was a person, it was a person, like, I respect, and I wonder, I'm like, did I lose a bit of their respect because of I cried in front of them? Did they appreciate that I was vulnerable? You know? But I feel like sometimes I'm a crier, I cry. And sometimes I don't know what to say or how to say it or when to say it. And even when I do, sometimes the only thing I really feel that gives me relief is to cry. And I cried a lot. I cried a lot this week. Like, I cry a lot, I cry a lot in private, but I cried a lot publicly this week. Everything was just, I was just um in an overwhelmingly sensitive period for some reason. Everything, I am just heightened in the sensitivity. Everything hurts a little more, everything feels, and I'm trying so hard to fight it because a lot of people, at least in the direct community that I'm in, I don't think they feel that comfortable with someone crying all the time. I think they're just kind of like, oh, I don't know how to react, like one on one, like, yeah, but like in big groups. And I have just been overwhelmed. I just feel like I want to cry all the time. And everything is just overwhelming. And anything anyone says, it's just overwhelming. And it's like being heightened just the way I see it. And then, I went and I cried to the Blessed Sacrament. And I just cried and I cried. And then, like, it was weird though because somebody saw me. And they looked at me like, like, oh. And I didn't feel bad that they looked at me with sympathy. I just felt like, oh, I hope I didn't make them uncomfortable. And I just tried to live the next day happier. And the solution or problems weren't necessarily fixed. It was more, I began to understand like what the point of this was. I don't know if it's me being humbled, the enemy putting resistance. What I will say is I'm very religious. I've just always loved God, even when I was doing stupid shit. I don't even know how to say it. Like I know it's a bad word, and it wasn't. I wasn't doing stupid stuff. I was doing stupid. In my times of distress, I always go back to God. And that's something like I like about myself. Because I think a lot of times in the times of distress is like when we're most upset, or like that's when when most people are like, why would you do this to me? I never go to that. I'm just upset. And like at the end of the day, I always end up back with him. So if this whole thing, all it did was lead me back to him, then not too bad. Because what it led me was to go to the Blessed Sacrament, to sing to him, to just cry, and to leave it all there. Not bad. That in the worst of times, like I'm still led back to him. It's incredible. Like I can even smile about it. So I don't like when I have these times where I am just emotionally sensitive, but at the end of the day, I was right back there with him. And I think that's something. There's something there. Um, Genesis 50:20. I can't remember it like 100%, but it says you planned for this to be like to do me harm, but God is going to utilize that to benefit me. So in these situations where I'm being attacked in different ways, the devil is using that so that I may be harmed, so that I will like, turn away or I don't know, anything. What he wants is for me not to love God, right? And yet God utilizes that for his good because I go back to him. Because I just realize, well, obviously I'm not anything. And I don't mean that in like a make me feel good. No, it's just I'm not anything. But I have everything because I have God. And I don't have any strength left. And I don't have any willpower left. But I have God. He's my strength. I don't have any more. But I have him. I smelled your fragrance, and that's what saved me. I smelled his fragrance. With Jesus having my back, God the Father, Mary, holding my hands, and the Holy Spirit leading me, we gonna figure it out. And they don't mind that I cry. God counts my tears. He knows sometimes, like maybe I'm being dramatic, but he knows sometimes I didn't deserve that. And he gives me that comfort. I'm not looking for vengeance or any of that. And I think that's what I'm learning is like forgiveness is important. But those emotional feelings and that crying, I know that in part, yeah, I'm feeling things about me. But I also know that the Holy Spirit is utilizing me because God must feel these feelings too. And on a way bigger level, because He actually matters and I don't. And all I can say, which I always do, is what a privilege it is that God utilizes me in any way. Whether it's to help somebody express something through me, enlighten me with words, that is my greatest privilege. And that experience only humbles me more because I really don't deserve it because I do have violence inside of me and I do have things inside of me. But even though that's true, Jesus is like, it's okay. I got you. Let's go look together. It's okay to cry. We're supposed to have feelings. We're human. And God gave us this privilege of having feelings and having tears and all that. All of that is part of this fleshy vessel. And if I don't allow those feelings to be expressed through me, then I'm not completing my full assignment task as a human being because I'm supposed to feel all the emotions. When am I weak? Is it when I cry or is it when I hold it in? Emotions are potent. Sometimes they overwhelm me, they consume me. The great thing is, I can then leave them at the feet of the cross. I have another one, but I think this one has gone too long. It's similar. It's about tears. I think about sadness, grief, kind of thing. I wrote it. So I think I'm going to end it here. I hope you like it. It was my feelings on a plate. Sometimes the gateway to a conversation is tears. Emotions are potent. Sometimes they overwhelm me. They consume me. I don't want to cry. I don't want to manipulate anyone with my tears. But sometimes that's all I have in me to do. Sometimes all that's left for me is to cry, to break character, to not appear to have it together, to be vulnerable. When am I weak? Is it when I cry or when I hold it in?